You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It's time to wake up with the Morning Boys on Worldwide Sports Radio Network. And here's your host, Ryan Hickey.
Good Thursday morning and welcome in to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It is the Morning Boys with you here, right here exclusively on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Hopefully you're having a great start to your week. If you're on the coast, especially on the East Coast, we hope that you stayed safe during this tropical storm that went up and down the East Coast, really came with some high-intensity winds, some big downpours, and left at least a lot of us here on Long Island still without power, including yours truly. So hopefully if you're on the coast and you face a storm, hopefully you came away with it with minimal damage and, more importantly, have your power up and running, which obviously makes a huge difference in the quality of life that you are living. But we appreciate you coming and joining us here on this Thursday morning. A lot to get into. Very excited to join you guys here. A lot of NFL today. A lot of NFL topics I want to get into, you guys, and talk about today, because NFL training camps, they're underway. They're going. The NFL is pushing forward like we're going to have a season. So might as well start talking about the NFL, start preparing and getting ourselves mentally prepared for a season, because I don't know about yourself, but for me, I've had my doubts. I've been very skeptical that the season could start, let alone, get off without a hitch and start basically on time. But the NFL should have known, they're going to keep on plowing on just like they have during the offseason. We will at least try as close as we can to get an on-time start. So there's a few different topics I want to kind of get into here. In the last week, the Athletic did a great job and did a great piece. Their author, Mike Sando, every year has done now these quarterback tier rankings, where basically he talks to 50 coaches and evaluators in the NFL and says, all right, here are the different tiers that we have, which quarterback belongs where. And they listed 5 tier 1 quarterbacks. I'll give you the names of who they put. Basically, tier 1 you can basically put into the elite category, right? I think that's fair to say. The team wins because of them. He's one of the best in the league, and there really no holes in the game. I'll read you the 5, and I want to discuss that. I put this out on Twitter. Ryan_Hickey and the number 3 is my Twitter handle. I want to throw this question out there. How many elite quarterbacks are there in the NFL? Well, I have my number, and it's not the same number that these scouts and head coaches have, which is 5. I'll discuss my number. I'll discuss who belongs in the elite category, but I'd love to get your thoughts as well. And again, that poll is on Ryan_Hickey and the number 3 on Twitter. How many elite quarterbacks are there? We'll do that at 9:20 or so. It's about 15 minutes. Earlier this week, Green Bay Packers head coach Matt LaFleur was discussing the future of Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Hint, he didn't say it's over anytime soon. He said he expects Aaron Rodgers to be there for a really long time. When asked what a really long time is, he said, didn't really give an answer. We'll discuss why he's a liar and why Matt LaFleur knows the future of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers knows the future of Aaron Rodgers. Hint, it's not much longer in Green Bay. We'll discuss that at 9:40, top of the 10 o'clock hour. I'm excited about this. Now that baseball's in full swing, now that we hope at least that they are going to continue their season, and fingers crossed, knock on wood, that they can finish their season, every Thursday we'll do a little MLB power rankings. 2 weeks in now, into the season. Who are the top 5 teams? Who is the best team in baseball so far 2 weeks in? We'll give you that and a few that just are off the cuff of the top 5. 10:20, we'll do Super Bowl contenders. How many are there? We'll discuss the number. We'll discuss which teams are legitimately Super Bowl contenders in 2020. And to finish off the show, college football has had some big news. A lot of news really going on in college football. Their schedule now, the Big Ten just released their schedule. The ACC moments ago just released their schedule. All Power 5 conferences are going to play a conference-only schedule for the most part. A few conferences want to play one non-conference game, but for the most part, teams in their conference are only playing each other. And also on top of that, this week, you've had a few big-name players in college football already opt out of the season. We see with the NFL, and today is actually the deadline for NFL players to opt out of this season. But now we're starting to see it with college football. And is this going to be a trend? Because we already had one big-time player and a few first-round picks already opt out. Will this be a trend, or is this mostly reserved for only players that can afford and their draft stock wouldn't be hurt? We'll discuss to end the show. But I do want to start, let's stick with the NFL. And like I said, since training camps are underway and the season is going to try to start off on time, I want to discuss with you, should the NFL play in a bubble? right? As we know, the major sports leagues, you have the NHL and the NBA, are doing a hub city system, at least for the NHL, and a bubble for the NBA, while MLB is without a bubble, and now the NFL, so far, at least plans on not having a bubble for the 2020 season. As we see the NBA, again, another spotless week of coronavirus tests. The bubble is working so far, 3 weeks in, so far so good. Hockey, same thing, so far so good. MLB, as we've seen, the results are not great, not promising. A few bumps in the road, if you want to call a massive outbreak for one team and another outbreak developing on the Cardinals, not promising, or a bump in the road, as Major League Baseball will call it. But they're pushing on, they're continuing. And I'm curious, now that kind of MLB is underway, again, 2 weeks in, you see we've gotten at least the gist of what to expect now when you're trying to play sports in a pandemic without a bubble. Should the NFL try to play in a bubble? Would it be wise for them? Is that the only way that they can get their season off and, more importantly, finish their season? Or can they do it? Can they adopt what MLB is doing and basically try to play without a bubble? And for me, I think there's a few reasons why NFL can get away with not playing in a bubble this year. I think they are absolutely able to follow the same Major League Baseball route, try to contain the players when they're at practice, try to contain the virus as much as possible, at least keep their players safe, but they could do so without a bubble. First reason why, you look at just the pure NFL schedule, less travel. As we've seen so far through Major League Baseball, less travel in the NFL means less temptation for players. Think about it. For the NFL, if you have a road game, you're only traveling 1 day a week. You're going to the game Saturday night. You'll stay in a hotel. Sunday, you have the game, and you travel back on Sunday. Major League Baseball, obviously, it's a lot harder. You're on road trips for 7 days, maybe even 10 days. You're on the road for a while. And as we know, especially when you're on the road, there's not much to do outside of your hotel room. So the players want to go out. They want to get it by teeth. They maybe want to, dabble in the lifestyle. It's a lot more tempting to go out and try to do something to occupy your time on the road than it is at home. At least with the NFL, when you're on the road, that's the one night. Everyone on Saturday night is getting ready for the game. You're having meetings, you're game planning. MLB, you have the game, and then kind of, you're on your own. There's no real game planning every night. It's less intense. So, you can wake up, do what you want, get a coffee, go walk around, mill around, and, you don't have to be at the ballpark until 2 or 3 in the afternoon. There's a lot more dead time for Major League Baseball, which means there's a lot more temptation for the players to go out, to maybe go into an environment they're not supposed to. And as you saw with the Marlins, and now as you're seeing with the Cardinals, the temptation's there. And when they don't abide by the rules, when they try to push it, you can see what happens. So at least with the NFL, you're only in a hotel once a week for half the season. You're only traveling, think about 8 times, which is basically the equivalent of one road trip for Major League Baseball. And the rest of the week, you're practicing and you're at home, which allows for the coaches, to basically keep a better eye on their players. And theoretically, when you're at home, when you're in your own home, there's more distractions to keep you at home than you are if you're on the road in a hotel room. So less travel in the NFL, less temptation. Number 2, the NFL has the benefit of time. They've had the benefit of time since this entire pandemic started, right? Obviously, you had right in the middle of the seasons or towards the end of the seasons for NHL and NBA, they had to stop right away. Major League Baseball was trying to get ramped up, they had to start. The NFL was really the only league, for the most part, that was unaffected. The free agency period took a little hit because you couldn't make visits, but for the most part, there's a lot of Zoom meetings. You didn't have to go anywhere in order to try to sign and talk with a free agent. Draft was the same thing. They did the draft virtually, worked out great. And now you get the benefit of time because you see, by the time the NFL will kick off in early September, you'll have already at least a month, almost 6 weeks, to watch what Major League Baseball is doing, to learn from their already made mistakes, and correct them. One of those major mistakes, and one of the biggest questions of if Major League Baseball can continue their season, was that you had the Marlins already with 3 positive tests in the morning, the morning before games, hours before the game, still took the field and played against the Phillies last Sunday. And as we saw, the outbreak continued with the Marlins. More players got sick. And thankfully for baseball, they were lucky because the spread didn't go over to the Phillies. Baseball is a socially distant sport enough to where even though some players were sick and didn't know it, they were asymptomatic. The tests didn't come back yet. That showed they were positive. Because baseball is socially distant, the Phillies weren't affected. The NFL can't take that risk. And as we see, one of the major errors by Major League Baseball was not being clear on the protocol of what it takes to play and what it takes to not play and forfeit the game. Major League Baseball was unprepared. They did not have, in their 113-page manual, did not have an outline, did not have a guideline or a protocol to say, hey, if there's a certain number of tests hours before the game, you can't play. So despite the Marlins having 4 players test positive, they still played on Sunday. The NFL easily can learn from this, and more importantly, take the decision out of the hands of the players, take the decision out of the hands of the coaches, the general manager, and really the organization. This has to be from the top, a Roger Goodell decision. What is an outbreak? What determines to be an outbreak? And what's the number we can't have a game played? Because as we saw, I mean, you have a group chat with the Marlins saying, we want to play. If you leave it to the teams, the competitive juices will flow, the competitive spirit will show, and they won't forfeit. They won't, I don't think a team will sacrifice themselves for the good of the league. And we have 4 positive tests, guys, we'll probably have more. We're going to sit this one out. We're going to take the cautious route and say, you know what, we're not going to play this. We'll take the L. The league has to put in a policy. Learn from Major League Baseball, who was not prepared for an outbreak, and put a policy in place where it comes from the top of what constitutes an outbreak or not, and what it takes for a team to forfeit or not. Because as we see, Major League Baseball can get away with having some players sick and still playing a game. The NFL cannot. That is the last thing the NFL needs. So you got to make sure those players on the field are 100% clean, coronavirus free, or the league's going to have a tough time getting off the floor. Another thing, at least, that bodes well for the NFL is, and obviously the Marlins situation is ugly. The Cardinals situation is not ideal. Both of those outbreaks happen because players didn't respect the rules. 20 of the other 30 teams so far are clean and have had no issues. So at least so far, 2 weeks in, the blueprint is there. That you can play without a bubble. It's just you have to really have your players be responsible, really be honed in and keyed in and doing the right thing. Because even one player, especially in the NFL, as we'll see, could take down the league. So the NFL has that benefit of time for learning from MLB's mistakes. Less travel overall, which is less temptation for the players. And finally, you're already seeing teams and organizations putting in their own bubbles. Yeah, the Saints bought, it feels like half of a hotel for training camp, where they're going to put all their players in. They're going to go to the hotel. They're going to go to the facility for training camp and go back, and that's it. So the Saints have effectively built a bubble for training camp. The Buccaneers are going to have a voluntary bubble for the entire season, where they're doing the same thing. They're taking floors out of a hotel, and if players want, they can stay there, go to the hotel, stay there. When it's time to practice, go to the practice facility. When it's time to go home, they go back to the hotel, and that's it. So you can create your own bubble within just your own team. You don't need to have an NBA-style bubble where every team is in one location. It's closed off to the rest of the world. You can do it on a smaller scale within your own team. So far, at least, from what we've seen, I think the NFL has the capability, whether it's less travel, whether it's benefit of time from learning from Major League Baseball's mistakes, and the ability to build their own bubbles, that I think that they can get away with not having a true NBA-style, NHL-style bubble, and instead follow the route of Major League Baseball. It's been a very bumpy ride, don't get me wrong, for Major League Baseball. Right, just last week, we were questioning whether the season could continue. The outbreak on the Marlins was worrisome. The Cardinals then started developing players that were getting sick. So it seemed like the world is crashing around baseball. But for them, they're able to right the ship, fix their protocols on the fly. And it seems so far, at least, to get the ship righted enough to where they can continue with the season. At least there's hope that a season could be finished in about 6.5 weeks. So I think the NFL can follow the same thing as Major League Baseball. I don't think a bubble is necessary for the NFL, and I think they can get away with just being extra cautious, extra vigilant, and do so without basically shutting off their players from the rest of the world. So I'm curious, looking at the 3 leagues that have returned, the NHL, the NBA, MLB. NHL and the NBA so far have been spotless. They created their own bubbles, spotless. Major League Baseball, letting their player basically no bubble, trying to have extra protocols, trying to have social distance in the dugouts, have players wear masks, no high fives. And for 28 out of the 30 teams, it's working. So I'm curious, does the NFL need a bubble? Or can they do so? Can they follow the MLB route and get away with no bubble for the 2020 season? Get your thoughts, whether it's on Facebook, Worldwide Sports Radio Network, Twitter, WWSRN_radio. Here's your thoughts if the NFL needs a bubble or not. And when we come back, so The Athletic did a great survey, talked to 50 coaches and evaluators in the NFL. They have 5 quarterbacks that they put in their Tier 1 or elite category. I'll tell you who they are and how many in your mind. How many elite quarterbacks are there in 2020? We'll get your thoughts on the Morning Boys and with Ryan Hickey return right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It's time to wake up with the Morning Boys on Worldwide Sports Radio Network. And here's your host, Ryan Hickey.
And we are back here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network on this Thursday morning, talking a lot of NFL today. And I'm really excited about this next topic to get into, because last week, we wouldn't get into last week, didn't have enough time last week. But The Athletic and their author, Mike Sando, talked to 50 NFL head coaches, and evaluators, trying to decipher which quarterbacks basically belong in what tiers. Which quarterbacks are elite in Tier 1, which quarterbacks are just on the cusp of in Tier 2, and so on and so on. They ranked 36 quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Obviously, you take into account some teams have 2, like the Raiders have Derek Carr and Marcus Mariota. You have the Bears with Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles. So they ranked essentially 1 through 36, ranked and gave their evaluations for every single quarterback. And within that, they put them also in tiers, within 4 tiers. And I really want to get into and touch into Tier 1 here. And I put this poll on my Twitter account, Ryan_Hickey3. Ryan_Hickey3. I want to get your thoughts, because of the 50 coaches and evaluators that were discussed, they put 5 quarterbacks in Tier 1, which I'm calling the elite category. So they say 5 quarterbacks in 2020 are elite. I'm curious your thoughts. Right? You watch the league. You watch these players play every week. If you have them on fantasy, you know how good they are, or maybe how, if they struggle. Let's get your thoughts, because in the 5 quarterbacks they put in the elite category, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Deshaun Watson. That's Mahomes, Wilson, Rodgers, Brees, Watson. And they're in the scout's mind, in the coach's mind, those are the 5 elite quarterbacks heading into 2020. So let's get your thoughts. I put this poll on Twitter, again, at Ryan_Hickey3. How many elite quarterbacks do you think there are in the NFL in 2020? 2, 3, 4, or other? More or less. I think there's 1. I think there's 5 or 6. So far, the early returns, 4. 4 elite quarterbacks is 41.7%. 3 elite quarterbacks, 33.3%. Those are the 2 leaders in the clubhouse. To me, I only have 2. I'll read you the definition of what a Tier 1 quarterback is according to this ranking. Tier 1 quarterback can carry his team each week. The team wins because of him. He expertly handles pure passing situations. He has no real holes in his game. So I read that, and I think about that. I say, okay, which team can carry his team each week? Which quarterback can carry his team each week? Which team is winning because of their quarterback? Which quarterback has no holes in their game? When I hear that criteria, I only think of 2 quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson. To me, there's no other quarterback in that category. So I would only put 2 quarterbacks in the elite category. Patrick Mahomes, we talked about this the other week when the NFL players decided to vote Patrick Mahomes as the 4th best player and the 3rd best quarterback heading into 2020. They had Lamar Jackson over him. Lamar Jackson is the best player in the NFL. And they had Russell Wilson over him. But need I remind you, we're talking about a guy who's already won the NFL MVP, who's already won the Super Bowl MVP, and has a Super Bowl ring under his belt. He's 4-1 in the playoffs, 28-8 as his career record. I brought up these stats last week as well. When trailing by 10 points or more last year, the Chiefs did it 6 times, including all 3 times in the playoffs. They are 5-1 in those games. That is the definition of an elite quarterback. That's the definition of a tier 1 quarterback. A guy who can carry his team. A guy that, because of his play, the team wins because of him. He has no real holes in his game, and he doesn't. He's mobile. He can throw in the run. He has great reads, a great arm, great accuracy. He has really all the tools it already takes to be elite, and he's still so young. Only 2 years in the league as a starter. So his ceiling is still higher, and we truly don't know how great he can be. But good news is, it only can get higher from here, it looks like. So he already has all the tools to be successful. And he still has all the potential to reach even a new level. So I look at him, I say he's already elite. I look at Russell Wilson, this is a guy who's only gotten better throughout his career. Right, when they went to the 2 Super Bowls back-to-back and they won one, and when they just blew out the Broncos, at that point, Russell Wilson was a game manager. It was all about the Legion of Boom and that great Seattle defense. That great Seattle defense. You had a lot of big personalities on that team. You had Richard Sherman obviously being the voice of that defense. And it was looked at more the offense, and that, especially in that era, in that Legion of Boom era, it was more about, can the offense just do enough? Can they score enough just to win the games? Because you knew every week the Seattle defense was going to shut teams down and dominate that game. And it was, can the offense just do enough, a little, to give themselves a shot to win every week? Well, that is totally flipped on its head. The Legion of Boom is gone, and now Seattle is a offensive-minded team. They are led by Russell Wilson. And this is a guy who you can make the argument, you can't make, he has done more with less. There's no one out there in the NFL that has won more, that has put up better numbers with less talent around him. An NFL head coach was quoted in this article when talking about Russell Wilson. He said, quote, "I think he does more for his team than anybody with a bad set of cards." That's so true. Look at the offensive line has been horrendous. Now it's getting better, but it has been horrendous for a very long time. He rarely has dynamic wide receivers to throw to. Now it's finally starting to change, and the skill positions are finally starting to increase. But for a while, this guy was doing it on his own. He was throwing to no-name wide receivers, running for his life because the offensive line was terrible. And you're dealing with, let's call it what it is, some incompetence at the play calling position. The Seahawks are still very predictable, but with that said, they still are very successful year in and year out Super Bowl contenders because of Russell Wilson's talent. So to me, when I look at, the qualifications again for Tier 1, the quarterback can carry his team each week. The team wins because of him. The QB can expertly handle all passing situations, and there's no real holes in his game. Again, I think of Patrick Mahomes. I think of Russell Wilson. To me, that's it. I don't think of Aaron Rodgers. I don't think of Drew Brees. And I don't think of Deshaun Watson. Aaron Rodgers, to me, he has regressed. Statistically, he's regressed. The offense and the team and the scheme around him is changing. The offense is transitioning. I mean, you look at what the Packers are trying to do. They are trying to run the ball first. They're trying to be a smash-mouth team. Look, they drafted a running back high in this draft. You look at the way they played last year, they really were run first. The offense was not dynamic. Little support, very similar to Russell Wilson. Has very little support. Devontae Adams is a great wide receiver. But other than that, he really needs some help, I should say. And the Packers did nothing for him in the draft and free agency. So you're talking about doing more with less. Aaron Rodgers has done that for a large amount of his career, especially since winning the Super Bowl. So I still think he's very good. Don't get me wrong. But just to me, I don't view him as elite anymore. I don't. I think he's in that tier 2 right there, close. I think Aaron Rodgers has regressed. I do. Still very good, but not in that elite category. Drew Brees, I look at a guy who's slowing down, to be honest. I don't view Drew Brees as a quarterback that can play at a high level for an entire season. Now, he can have flashes and he can have glimpses where he is throwing the ball all over the yard, high completion percentage, throwing for 5 touchdowns a game. And you see that Saints offense is still potent, especially in the dome. But I'm concerned because 2 years in a row now, and Drew Brees is 41 years old heading into the season. 2 years in a row, we go back to 2018, he significantly regressed the last quarter of the season, those last 4 or 5 games, carried it into the playoffs. He wasn't at the same level that he was earlier in the season. And I think the best thing that happened to Drew Brees last year was hurting us, though, missing 5 games because it gave him a chance to regroup. It gave him almost a breather. Because I think at 41, Drew Brees can't play a full season at an elite level anymore. He can't. His last 3 full seasons, his passing yards, his total passing yards have decreased. Again, like I talked about, the 2018 home stretch in the playoffs were concerning. And even though he had that 5-game break early in the year, came back refreshed, and looked strong, he still struggled in the playoffs at home. I mean, he lost to Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings at home in the Dome. Drew Brees didn't have the best game. So I look at Drew Brees, again, still a very good quarterback, but someone I see because of his age, he can't play a full season. And if he does, he won't play at the elite level, that we're used to seeing him play. So I would not put him in the tier 1 elite category. And Deshaun Watson, to me, I really like his game, but he still has room to grow. Like I said, I've talked about the definition of what a tier 1 quarterback is. No real holes in his game. To me, I still view Deshaun Watson as having some holes. I'm still concerned about his passing game, and there are some flaws in there that, to me, at least prevent him from reaching elite status. Very, very, very good quarterback. Now, offensive line similar to Russell Wilson that has struggled, is getting better, but has struggled for a duration of his career. Weapons are either unhealthy or dwindling, because as we see, Bill O'Brien loves trading away any great receiver that he can to bring in a guy with question marks for injuries. You're bringing in Brandon Cooks, trouble staying on the field. You have Will Fuller on your team, trouble staying on the field. So Deshaun Watson has done a lot already to get the Texans in a position to win. Don't get me wrong. But I'm still not ready. I think he still has a few holes in his passing game that I don't have me ready yet to put Deshaun Watson in that tier 1 elite of the elite category. And even Lamar Jackson, the Athletic had the coaches and the evaluators, they sum up their votes and put them into tiers because of that. They had Lamar Jackson 7th as his 7th best quarterback, which I think is very interesting. The players had him 1 and number 1 overall. But these coaches and evaluators you talk to have Lamar Jackson as the 7th best quarterback. And I view Lamar Jackson similar to I view Deshaun Watson. I think he's close. I think he's knocking on the door. But there's still flaws that I look at Lamar Jackson that get me worried. I understand he won the MVP. I understand, one of the best quarterback seasons we've had, especially on the ground. Led the league in touchdown passes. Extremely efficient. But that Titans blueprint that they had against Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, now 2 playoff games in a row where he has struggled, it gets me a little concerned. That's okay. Again, he's still very young. He's only 2 years in the league. A year and a half as a starter. He still has plenty of room to grow. Similar to Deshaun Watson, similar to Patrick Mahomes. So that's okay that he's not in the elite category right away. Not every young quarterback that comes in the league already has to be close, if not already in the elite category. It's tough to get there. It should be hard. It should be reserved only for the best of the best. Which is why I only think there's 2 quarterbacks that are elite, that you can consider elite, that you can say you will put any team around you. And the Seahawks have tried their best to put as bad of a team around them offensively as they can. And they'll still win. Or have a really good shot at winning. I don't look at Aaron Rodgers. I don't look at Drew Brees. I don't look at Deshaun Watson or Lamar Jackson as those guys that are similar to Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson. Which is why, to me, those 2 are so good that they deserve their own category. Which is why I'm putting them in the elite. I'm putting them in the tier 1 by themselves. The rest of the list, Rodgers, Brees, Watson, Lamar, Tom Brady, they're in tier 2. They're really good. They're on the cusp. But I want to see Lamar get over his playoff woes. I want to see Deshaun Watson take the next step and really become an elite passer. Aaron Rodgers, I think, while still really, really, really good, is not at the same level that he was even 2 or 3 years ago. Drew Brees, I think, because of his age, is regressing. And statistically, he is regressing. Can't stay elite for a full season. So I have questions about the rest of these guys to where I don't have questions about Russell Wilson or Patrick Mahomes. So because of that, that's why I only have 2 players in the elite category. I think it should be hard to get in the elite category. That's part of my frustration. Now, I will admit, I am a person that I feel the bar should be set higher than it really is. Especially when it comes to Hall of Fame voting. To me, I'm a big stickler, and I don't like, especially with Major League Baseball, the way it's trending, how a lot of guys are getting in. I think it should be reserved for only the best of the best. A no-doubter, a no-brainer. Continually, we're seeing especially Hall of Fames get watered down, I believe. So while I have high qualifications, high bar to meet for the Hall of Fame, I view that the same way in these categories of elite. It should be really hard to get to the elite category. One season is not good enough to get you to the elite category. You got to do it over and over and over again. You got to be the best there is in your position, no doubt. And because of that, I only think there's two quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson. So love your thoughts. Again, on Twitter, Ryan_Hickey in the number 3. Ryan_Hickey in the number 3. Put this poll question out there just about an hour or so ago. Athletic, like I said, spoke to 50 coaches and evaluators, put 5 quarterbacks in the category: Mahomes, Wilson, Rodgers, Breeze, Watson. How many elite quarterbacks? How many elite quarterbacks do you think there are in 2020? I say 2. The categories are 2, 3, 4, another, either more or less. So far, the winner in the clubhouse is 4, 38%. 3 is 30%. My 2 is way down there, 7.7%. So I guess I'm in the minority in this thinking. There's only 2 elite quarterbacks in the NFL currently. But I guess I'm on my own. I'm on an island. That's okay. So I'll have to get your thoughts either on Facebook, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. If you want to tweet us, WWSRN_radio. You want to tweet me, Ryan_Hickey number 3. That is where you can find the poll question. Vote throughout the day. We'll update you throughout the show. How many elite quarterbacks are there in the NFL in 2020? I say 2. What say you? We'll get your thoughts when we come back. And we'll also, when we come back, speaking of Aaron Rodgers, his head coach spoke earlier this week about his future in Green Bay. We'll tell you what he said and why he's a liar when the Morning Boys are on to return right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It's time to wake up with the Morning Boys on Worldwide Sports Radio Network. And here's your host, Ryan Hickey.
If you're just tuning in on this Thursday morning, first of all, we appreciate you tuning in. Welcome. This is the Morning Boys of Ryan Hickey right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. And I will say this, hopefully, especially if you're listening on a coast, especially on the East Coast, we hopefully that the tropical storm didn't do too much damage to where you are. They didn't knock out the power for too long, didn't knock down any trees in your area they had to clean up. And we do hope that you stayed safe as this storm ripped through the East Coast. And I'll say this. Having no power now for going on day 2, almost 48 hours, it's been in one thought, kind of almost refreshing a little bit to kind of be off the grid, kind of not always been plugged in with the phone. It has been a little, nice to escape for a little bit. Now, don't get me wrong, it's been a little maddening, especially trying to keep up with the sports going on, not being able to really watch, and always constantly watching my phone battery, because especially when the storm first hit on Tuesday, I was not really charging my phone, and next thing you know, I was at like 11%. I'm like, oh boy, I'm in big trouble here. But it has been pretty refreshing, I can't lie. It's kind of not really always, plugged in, not always around, not checking email. And just kind of, living. It's almost a little bit freeing, I can't lie. To kind of not, be always worrying about your phone or what email am I going to get, what message am I going to get, let me see the latest thing on Twitter. It has been refreshing, not going to lie, to just kind of walk around, hang out, and just kind of do what I want. Now, I will lie, at nighttime, especially last night, with the humidity, no ability even for a fan to move air, it was tough. I will admit, the no air conditioning or even no fan, definitely missed power in that situation. But, yeah, being off the grid otherwise has been a little, a little rejuvenating, a little fresh. So I suggest, hey, maybe shut your phone off for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. It's nice to get away. It really is nice to get away. So that is at least the one upside of having no power for almost 2 days now is you're not constrained to your phone always. That's all. That's a little lesson, or that's a little takeaway, I guess, of trying to make good of a otherwise not great situation. Speaking of trying to make good on a not great situation, let's go up to Green Bay. Let's talk about the quarterback situation with the Green Bay Packers. Because I talked on the show as soon as the NFL draft happened on Thursday. Back here on Monday, we talked about it. The Green Bay Packers, in selecting and trading up to select and Jordan Love in the first round, a quarterback, Aaron Rodgers' time in Green Bay was very limited. Maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years, but Aaron Rodgers is not finishing his career in a Green Bay uniform, which he hoped. I think that was really not debatable. I think that was everyone would agree. Now, earlier this week, Matt LaFleur on Sunday speak to the media. He was asked about Aaron Rodgers. He was asked about the quarterback situation. This is what Matt LaFleur said when talking about Aaron Rodgers and his time in Green Bay. He said, quote, "Right now, most importantly, Aaron's our quarterback, and I see him here for a really long time. However long that is, I don't think anybody knows. Nothing's guaranteed in this league, but I feel so lucky to be able to work with him on a daily basis, and I don't see that changing for a really long time." And what Matt LaFleur did, said it in a nice way, danced around the question, even lied to our face a little bit. Matt LaFleur knows how much time Rodgers has in Green Bay. Hell, Aaron Rodgers knows how much time he has left in Green Bay. And hint, if you don't know, if you're unaware, it's not much longer. It is not much longer. Aaron Rodgers wants to play for at least another 4 to 5 years. He wants to play into his 40s. He said on the record multiple times. Well, guess what? That 4 to 5 year timeline, way, way, way too long for the Packers. Way too long. They need to find out what they have in Jordan Love. You don't, not only do you not draft a quarterback in the first round, you don't trade up to draft a quarterback in the first round and then sit him behind the starter for almost the entire duration of a rookie contract. The whole goal of drafting and the whole point of drafting a quarterback in the first round, not only do you hope to be the next franchise guy, but because the way quarterback salaries are skyrocketing, because of the way and the expense that it is to lock up a young quarterback, you need to know what you have if you're the Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love. You can't sit around for 2, 3, 4 years, waste that entire contract, have a quarterback on a cheap deal, and then to really not know what you have, and now it's time to, all right, what are we going to do? What are we going to pay him? This is why by year 3, by 2022, Jordan Love will be the starter in Green Bay. Has to be. There's no real other way around it. Aaron Rodgers will be the starter in 2020. He'll be the starter in 2021. And in that offseason from 2021 to 2022, whether it's a trade, where they both agreed to null the contract, one way or another, Aaron Rodgers will be playing for another team. And Jordan Love era will begin in Green Bay. It would happen earlier if it wasn't for the cap hit that the Packers would take. They were to cut or trade Aaron Rodgers right now, $51 million would basically still be on the salary cap for the Packers. A massive, massive number. That basically is going to be sitting there with no money or no player, that's getting that money. So you give it to Aaron Rodgers right now, $51 million is basically just dead money sitting on the salary cap the Packers can't use. And it's taking up space. You do it next year, after this season, heading into 2021, that number is $31 million. So imagine paying $81 million for someone not to be on the team. The Packers aren't in the business of doing that, especially in a pandemic where we think and we hear, at best case scenario, the salary cap will remain the same next year as it is this year. The salary cap has grown exponentially year after year after year. This is going to be the first year in a while where the salary, or next year, will be the first year in a while. The salary cap will not grow because the NFL and the league is preparing for a loss of some sort, obviously because of the pandemic, whether there are no fans in the stands, whether games not being completed, one way or another. It's expected the league will not bring in the same revenue as they have in the past, thus limiting the number on the salary cap for next year. So you're not going to have a reduced or even salary cap with other players' salaries going up. You have a just dead, solid chunk of money sitting there, taking up space. But now in 2 years, 2022, that number is only $17 million. Okay, you can work with that. You can make that happen. Which is why, for me, 2022 is when Aaron Rodgers is gone. 2 years as a starter, and then he's out. So guess what? Matt LaFleur could say, I really want Aaron Rodgers here for a very long time. Nothing's guaranteed. I don't know what a really long time is, but I don't see, my ability to work with him. I'm so lucky to work with him. I don't see that changing for a really long time. Matt LaFleur is lying to your face. He's lying to my face. He knows how long Aaron Rodgers' time is. Aaron Rodgers even talked about it now on the record in a few different interviews. I mean, he knows basically the time is near, or excuse me, the end is near, excuse me. He said the timelines don't matter. If the timelines were the same, there'd be no issues. He would retire as a Packer. The issue is the timelines aren't the same. Aaron Rodgers wants to keep on playing, at least for another 4 or 5 years. The Packers don't have 4 or 5 years to let him play. So while he's still very talented, so while he's still one of the best quarterbacks in the league, he's not long for Green Bay. But he's going to make it interesting now in 2 years to see who will be in the running for Rodgers' services. I mean, we saw if Tom Brady can leave New England, any quarterback can play anywhere else. So Joe Montana played for the Chiefs. You know, now the days of having a franchise quarterback there for 10, 15, 20 years, retiring when he wants to, doesn't happen anymore. Even the Colts cut Peyton Manning. Obviously, that was more injury-related, but they still moved on and made a decision to get rid of Peyton Manning. And what happened? He went to 2 Super Bowls and won 1 in Denver. The days of franchise quarterbacks playing their entire careers with one organization is slim to none. Because you know why? Because the quarterback salaries are going up and they are increasing. And the cheap labor still remains cheap. And with how quickly these college quarterbacks can adapt to the NFL, how quickly they could step in and make a difference right away, it pays to draft and develop young quarterbacks. So Aaron Rodgers, and again, Matt LaFleur can say, nothing's guaranteed. Right now, Aaron Rodgers is our quarterback, and I see him here for a really long time. Well, in the Packers' mind, Matt LaFleur's mind, a really long time is equal to 2 years. He said he doesn't know how long it is, but he kind of helped himself out saying nothing's guaranteed in this league. He bailed himself out. They gave him a little exit, a little trap door, backdoor exit. Because we think, as fans, as just normal people, a really long time is not 2 years. That's not really a long time. A really long time is longer than 2 years. But in Matt LaFleur's mind, 2 years is a really long time because that's how long Aaron Rodgers is going to be in Green Bay. Said it back in April. I'm saying it again now. The more Matt LaFleur talks about Aaron Rodgers being the guy, being their quarterback, I hope he's here for a very long time, the harder it is to believe. It's like he's trying to convince himself that Aaron Rodgers is going to be here for a long time, that he's their starting quarterback right now. Again, you don't trade up in the first round to draft a young quarterback just to have him sit for almost the entire rookie contract length. You got to know what you have. So by year 3, you'll have that year, you'll have the final year, and the 5th year option. You have 3 years to figure out what Jordan Love is. Is he worth an extension? And if so, how much are we going to pay him? Can't wait. You can't risk 1 or 2 years. Because either has a really bad year and it's a stinker. Okay, that's really not indicative of how he is, but you only have a small sample size to figure out. Maybe you decide to move on and draft someone else, and then Jordan Love becomes a star. Or he's a great first year, steps on the scene, blows it up. You give him a big-time contract, and all of a sudden, maybe we realize, all right, once teams figure out his game, figure out how to stop him, he's really not that great. He's a one-trick pony. And then all of a sudden now, the Packers with a bad contract for a long time with a quarterback that's not elite. You need to figure out what it is. What Jordan Love is one way or another. 3 years gives you that window. 3 years gives you that runway to figure out, is he good enough to be our guy, or is it time to reset and move on? For the Bears, they knew about Mitchell Trubisky in 3 years. And they knew the answer is a resounding no. Think about it. Mitchell Trubisky's been there in Chicago for 3 years. They already decided not to flex his 5th year option. And they brought in competition to help themselves out. So 3 years is the time and the amount you need to figure out what you have with a young quarterback. Is he going to be one of the guys that's going to take the league by storm, be one of the faces of the league for the next 10 or 15 years? And will that face of the league be in a Green Bay Packers uniform? So you got Matt LaFleur talk. But Aaron Rodgers is our guy. He's going to be here for a really long time. I love working with Aaron. Just wait. Just you wait. 2 years. I'm telling you. He'll start this year. He'll start in 2021. After the 2021 season is over, you'll see Aaron Rodgers in 2022 will be in a different uniform. He'll be quarterbacking for a different team. Similar to Tom Brady, similar to Peyton Manning, similar to Joe Montana. It's going to happen more, not less. So it's interesting to see. I think it's going to be 2 years. Matt LaFleur can tell you it's going to be a really, really long time. I'm curious your thoughts. How long do you think Aaron Rodgers is going to be in Green Bay? How long? According to Matt LaFleur, it's a really long time. Numbers-wise, I say it's 2 years. Do you think it's longer? Do you think it's short? I'd love to get your thoughts. Worldwide Sports Radio Network on Facebook, WWSRN_radio on Twitter. How much longer do you think Aaron Rodgers will be a Green Bay Packer? We'll get your thoughts. We'll get your thoughts. Facebook, Twitter. If you have the app, first of all, thank you for downloading the app. WWSRN on iOS, Worldwide Sports Radio Network on Android. You get all the great content you have. That's what you can watch on Twitch, the latest social media platform that we are broadcasting on is Twitch. Listen there, comment there. We'll read your comments on the air. How much longer do you think Aaron Rodgers will be a Green Bay Packer? We'll get your thoughts on that. And when we come back, Major League Baseball, 2 weeks into the season, we'll do our first ever edition of the Morning Boys MLB Power Rankings when the Morning Boys Ryan Key return right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It's time to wake up with the Morning Boys on Worldwide Sports Radio Network. And here's your host, Ryan Hickey.
Before the break, we're talking about Aaron Rodgers' future in Green Bay. To me, it's very limited. 2 years he has, to me, left in a Green Bay Packers uniform. 2020, 2021. Then he's going to be elsewhere. And my question is, all right, how long do you think he has in Green Bay? If it's only 2 years, he still has a great, decent amount of time left to go somewhere else and win. So on Facebook, my guy Joe Pidell, number 1 seed in 2020 or Apocalypse, mind you. On Monday, he'll be out there battling Lauren Clark for a chance to go to the 2020 or Apocalypse finals where he will take on Sarah Troncalli. So Joe, number 1 seed, chimes in, Rodgers to Cleveland, and he'll be the hero they can't develop. That would be very interesting. And I like that a lot, actually. Now, I'm rooting for Baker Mayfield, so I hope he can get it done. Because I do like Baker. I like his swagger. And I think he'd be a perfect fit in Cleveland. But if not, if he struggles, if he can't get it done, the weapons that Cleveland has, you have Odell Beckham Jr., you have Jarvis Landry, you have David Njoku, Austin Hooper, Nick Chubb. The offensive line is developing and getting better. Aaron Rodgers. Could you imagine Aaron Rodgers going from Green Bay, where despite going 13-3, despite winning the division, despite going to the NFC title game, and having a glaring weakness that was their wide receiver core. No one for Aaron Rodgers to throw to outside of Devontae Adams. They didn't address the wide receiver position in free agency. Or I should say they did, They signed Devin Funchess. Not exactly the biggest free agent acquisition. Now he just opted out, so he's not even there anymore. So you try to sign Devin Funchess, and in a wide receiver draft, in the NFL draft, where the wide receiver position was so deep, so talented, so skilled, they drafted exactly 0 wide receivers for Aaron Rodgers. So the one addition that they did try to bring in to shore up the wide receiving core, Devin Funchess opted out and will not even play this year. So you gave Aaron Rodgers 0 help, 0 weapons. Imagine going from that. Oh, excuse me. See, that's how fired up I am. Imagine going from that to going to Cleveland, where they have abundance of weapons. And if Baker Mayfield struggles again this year, a quarterback that can't get the ball out to them. That would be so much fun to watch. And I think he would have a lot of success. Oh, man. Imagine him and Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, battling for the division. And then going against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs for a chance to go to the Super Bowl. Cleveland. Oh, man. I'm sure Cleveland would sign up for that right away. That would be a lot of fun. I love that one. Joe Pidell, Rodgers to Cleveland. Selfishly, as a Colts fan, I would love Rodgers in Indianapolis. And let me get your thoughts as well. Since I think it's pretty well known that Aaron Rodgers won't be in Green Bay much longer. Which team could best use his services? Which team would he be a great fit for? they could take to the next level and possibly turn to Super Bowl contenders. We saw it with the Buccaneers. They signed Tom Brady. They already have two great wide receivers in Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. Now all of a sudden they're Super Bowl contenders. I think right away, if you put Aaron Rodgers on the Browns, they are legitimately, if you can keep this core of skill positions there, they are legitimately a Super Bowl contender. So I'm curious, what is the best team Aaron Rodgers could go to? Which team should try to trade for his services? I love that. Joe Pidell, Rodgers to Cleveland. I think Browns fans to do that right now. If you can make a trade, somehow acquire Aaron Rodgers right now, they would do it. But that would be a lot of fun. You see Aaron Rodgers in a Browns uniform taking a franchise that's been unable to get out of their own way, have been famous for mediocrity, famous for losing. Have Aaron Rodgers go there, try to turn this organization around, and try to build a true winner in Cleveland. I think they might build a statue for him if he can get a Super Bowl. It'd be a lot of fun to see. Aaron Rodgers to Cleveland, 2 years. That would be a lot of fun. Joe then also writes in, he's listening in real time. Says, definitely not Indy. Rivers to save the day. Well, that hurts. I am not a Phillip Rivers fan. I don't think Phillip Rivers is the answer in Indianapolis. And I think the Colts could have gone down a few different routes. That would have been better than Phillip Rivers. But I'll tell you this, 2 years, Phillip Rivers is not going to be playing. And if so, he's not going to be in the Colts uniform. I'll take Aaron Rodgers. I think they have a great core built. I think that'll be really interesting in Cleveland for sure. Let me know what team would Aaron Rodgers best fit on. Where should he go and he can still win and really shove it to Green Bay? Because let's be honest. We saw with Brett Favre when he retired, unretired, then decided to play for the Vikings. He tried to shove it to the Packers. He got close, made it to the NFC title game, didn't get fully all the way there to the Super Bowl and win. I think Aaron Rodgers, honestly, is petty enough, would be fired up enough to try to go somewhere and really stick it to the Packers. Really stick it to them that they made a mistake in doubting him, not giving him the weapons, and essentially, despite going to the NFC Championship game, start a rebuild. Yeah, that's essentially what they did. They drafted a quarterback in the first round, a running back in the second round. Literally two offensive positions the Packers already had set and did not need help with, the Packers drafted in the first two picks. It's a rebuild in their mind. So imagine Aaron Rodgers going to the Bears. Imagine Aaron Rodgers, maybe if Kirk Cousins doesn't work out, going to Minnesota, following the Brett Favre route, going to Cleveland, going to Indianapolis. That'd be a lot of fun. There's a lot of destinations that Aaron Rodgers could go to. I think he'd be a winner. He'd have success in. And that's the biggest thing that's going to be for him. Where can I go to have success to really show that the Packers made a big mistake? So that'd be fun to watch. Worldwide Sports Radio Network on Facebook, WWSRN_radio on Twitter. Where should Aaron Rodgers end up? What team would best fit for him and that he can have a legitimate chance to win a Super Bowl with? We'll get your thoughts. But it is so every Thursday, I'd like to start doing this more, MLB Power Rankings. We are 2 weeks into the MLB season. Hopefully, knock on wood, I've been knocking on a lot of wood recently. Very superstitious if you couldn't tell. Fingers crossed we can get an MLB season in the books and crown a champion. So with that said, every week that Major League Baseball will be playing, will be in action. We will do Power Rankings every Thursday. So with that said, the first inaugural Morning Boys Worldwide Sports Radio Network MLB Power Rankings coming at you right now. 5-1 with a few honorable mentions, just missed the cut. We do this every Thursday. Number 5, a team that's honestly surprised me. That is the Chicago Cubs. 10-2. Offense has been solid. And great lineup, don't get me wrong. The pitching is what concerned me. The starting pitcher has been pretty solid. The bullpen has been the major concern. Specifically one guy, Craig Kimbrell. And despite this is not a typo. This is not an exaggeration. Craig Kimbrell, the closer for the Cubs, currently has a 32.4 ERA. 32.4. 32.4. Not great. Not what you want to see if you're a Cubs fan. So I'll tell you this. That's a guy, if you're the other 29 teams, you definitely want to see. Bring Kimbrell. That's a guy I want to face. So despite his gigantic 32 ERA, The Cubs have been gotten around that. The starting pitching has been better than I expected. They've been a great home team. And they are off to an impressive start at 10-2. I picked the Reds to make the playoffs. To win the division. I had the Cubs missing the playoffs, and this was before the playoffs expanded to 8 teams when it was just 2 wild cards. I had the Cubs missing out. I thought their run and their dynasty that they had going was over. But good for the Cubs. 10-2, dominating. Another win last night. You're off to a hot start. They're number 5 in the MLB power rankings.
Number 4.
I should have done with number 5. We really need a voice guy, a deep voice to really just hammer it home. So we'll do it. We'll do it all in one. A man who wears many hats. We'll also voice it ourselves. Number 4, the Colorado Rockies, another team that, I'll be honest, I did not have anywhere close to my radar when the season started. They really, they got off to a decent start last year and just completely fell flat on their face the last 2/3 of the season. But they're a team that has some decent wins already. The Padres are a spunky bunch. They beat them. They beat the A's. They're pitching, despite being in Colorado in that hitter's ballpark with the thin air, 6th in the league in ERA. They're scoring a lot of runs. And the Rockies, they've been impressive, to be honest. Like I said, kind of a team so far with the Cubs and the Rockies, both teams that I didn't really expect to get off to hot starts. Especially Rockies when you have the Dodgers in the division. I understand they didn't play the Dodgers yet, but the AL West and the NL West, those are 2 tough divisions. Those are very 2 strong divisions with some teams that, are tough outs. So credit to the Rockies so far, 8-3. They're number 4 on the MLB power rankings.
Number 3.
The Minnesota Twins, a team that is not too surprising at all. Clicking on all cylinders so far. Their offseason additions of Kenta Maeda, Rich Hill to really address the pitching, which is their bugaboo last year, have worked. Now off to a great start. Not too surprised that the Twins are off to, leading the AL Central and off to a great start. But 10-2 is very impressive. 10-2. When you start off 10-2 in a 60-game season, and you almost assert yourself of a playoff spot at this point, right? I think at this point you can just, kind of pull in the reins if you need to, and you can, be assured that you'll make the playoffs. Yeah, worst case, a wild card. Credit to the Twins. Great start. Everything's clicking so far is what you want. The pitching is good. The hitting is good. They're one of those teams that everything's working so far. You hope they don't peak too early, but so far so good. The Minnesota Twins, number 3 in the MLB power rankings.
Number 2.
The New York Yankees have been, it pains me to say it as a Mets fan, one of the best teams in baseball. Aaron Judge is the best player in baseball right now. Another home run yesterday, 7 home runs to lead the league. Garrett Cole, their prized, big-time starting pitching acquisition. They've been without an ace for a long time, really since CC Sabathia, when they made the trade for Sabathia a decade ago. He's looked very good. He's lived up to the part. He's been dominant. And the Yankees, they did this a lot last year, too, especially because of how injured they were. They needed contributions from all different parts of the lineup. They got it last year. They're getting it this year. Yeah, Mike Tauchman, a guy that was traded for late before the season last year, right? Late in spring training. They sign him. Okay, a guy, you think 25th man on the roster. Maybe, he'll get a pension every here and there. He has been great. He has been integral to their success last year and has been a great addition and continuing to contribute this year. The Yankees are one of those teams where they have a deep lineup. They have contributions, again, going up and down. Role players are playing a great part. Their bullpen, best bullpen in the league. 9-2 after a great start so far. Even with a little hiccup, where they had a few games canceled because of the coronavirus, because they were supposed to play the Phillies that were rained out. Have missed a beat. Dominating, beat up on the Red Sox. Got a little bit beat up yesterday, but for the most part, they've been pretty well so far. 9-2. Yankees are hot. Aaron Judge so far, league leader for MVP. Yankees are rolling. They are looking good. And they are just behind the number 1 team.
Number 1.
Team in Major League Baseball. And that is the Los Angeles Dodgers. 9-4, so the worst record of anyone in this list. But there's a reason why they're number 1. Cody Bellinger, struggling. Not off to a great start. Clayton Kershaw's made 1 start. So despite that, despite struggles from their best hitter, and arguably their best pitcher. Walker Buehler stepped up and been great. The lineup has picked them up. And not only do they have the best ERA in baseball from a team pitching staff, they also have the best run differential. So despite having the worst record of the top 5, they are plus 32 in run differential in just 13 games. Their pitching is on point. Their hitting is on point. That's, again, despite not having Clayton Kershaw and despite Cody Bellinger getting off to an awful start. That is a deep team, a very talented team. Mookie Betts has been so much fun to watch already. At the bat, in the field, he's doing it all. Dodgers are a great, great, great team, and they show the depth that they have with pitching, with hitting. Despite getting off to a 9-4 start, not great. And again, when the Yankees are 9-2, the Twins are 10-2, the Rockies are 8-3, and the Cubs are 10-2. All better records than the Dodgers. There's a reason why they're still number 1 in baseball. They had the talent, they had the pitching, they have it all. And even when their best guys aren't coming through, other guys throughout the lineup are picking up and getting the job done. So Dodgers, no surprise, no hot takes here. They're still the number 1 team in baseball 2 weeks in. And I don't really expect that to change too much. Now we'll go with some honorable mentions. Some just missed the cut. Oh, so close, but maybe we'll get you next week. The Atlanta Braves, 8-5. Their offense has been great. Great. My big concern with the Braves, and why I don't have them on this list so far, is that their pitching depth, especially their starting pitching depth, coming in was a little questionable towards the back end of the rotation. That took a bigger hit 2 weeks in. Yeah, Mike Foltynewicz, ineffective, already sent down, designated for assignment, despite being their basically their ace 2 years ago. So Foltynewicz, designated for assignment, off to a terrible start. And they took really a massive blow a few days ago. Mike Soroka, young pitcher, ace of the staff, opening day starter, went down, popped his Achilles, out for the year. So it's already questionable coming into the year. Now, when you lose essentially 2 out of the 5 rotation, 2 out of your 5, starting pitching rotation, including your best pitcher, that's not great. Not what you want. So the Braves, again, off to after getting off to a slow start, rebounded 8-5, took 3 out of 4 from the Mets in an impressive series. But their starting rotation depth is going to be a major question, something to look on, and why I think that's going to hold them back in the long run. So Braves, hey, still off to a hot start, still off to a great start offensively, especially, but their pitching depth does scare me. That's why so far I have them just off the cut, not in the top 5. A's, same thing. Pitching has been great. All that's really honestly been flipped between the Braves and the A's. Their pitching has been great so far. Great. The offense is the one that's scary. So 8-4 off to a good start. Leaders in the AL West. Got to get that offense going a little bit more to have the A's catapult into the top 5. And the Astros, I have the Astros in here strictly because of their offense. They're 6-5, but their offense has been absolutely dynamic, absolutely the best offense in baseball. 6 runs per game. Leading the league, 6 runs per game. But this is similar to the Braves. Their pitching depth wasn't reliable to start the year. Justin Verlander has a forearm strain. If he is not out for the year, he's out for a very long time, which especially in a short 60-game season is going to hurt. And their bullpen has 10 rookie pitchers. 10 rookie pitchers coming out of the bullpen. That is a recipe for disaster. So despite the pitching staff of the Astros being, tough to say the least. Even before the injuries, you're relying on 10 rookies in the bullpen is not what you want, especially in a short season. Their offense has been carrying the team so far. Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa, Alex Bregman. Not even off to that great of a start. But they're still winning. They're still scoring 6 runs a game. So, strictly from an offensive perspective alone, I have the Astros just missed out of the top 5. We'll see. Their pitching staff is questionable. We'll see if they can pick themselves up. Because if they get even average pitching, the Astros will rebound and still become one of the best teams in baseball. It's a lot to ask from 10 rookies out of the bullpen. And now also have a banged-up starting pitching rotation. You heard me before the year. Starting pitching, to me, is going to be the key. Starting pitching is going to be the key in a short 60-game season. Who can pitch the best? Astros have question marks. The Braves have question marks. Dodgers still one of the best pitching teams in baseball. Yankees have gotten great pitching. So far with the Twins, Rockies, and Cubs, all the top 5 teams have all been pretty good. So those are my top 5. That is the MLB Power Rankings, the first edition of the Morning Boys MLB Power Rankings. We do it every Thursday, 5-1. Again, number 1 Dodgers, 2 Yankees, 3 Twins, 4 Rockies, and number 5 the Cubs. 2 weeks in, we'll see who can crack that list, who will move up or move down next Thursday when we do this as well. When we come back, any thoughts, by the way, on the power rankings? A team ranked too low, a team ranked too high? Please reach out. Let me know. We will discuss. Let's get your thoughts on right now who are the best teams in baseball 2 weeks into the season. We'll get your thoughts. And when we also come back, since the NFL is playing to start on time, since the NFL is having training camps go on now, we'll discuss how about some Super Bowl contenders. Let's have a little fun. Is your team a Super Bowl contender? We'll discuss how many truly Super Bowl contenders, how many teams can win the Super Bowl this year when the Morning Boys Ronnie can return right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It's time to wake up with the Morning Boys on Worldwide Sports Radio Network. And here's your host, Ryan Hickey.
And we're back here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network on this Thursday morning, discussing elite quarterbacks. That was the main topic, the main discussion I hope to get into today, based upon The Athletic earlier last week, putting out a survey and essentially a poll to 50 coaches and NFL evaluators, ranking all 36 starting caliber quarterbacks, putting them to tiers, and at least from tier 1, they put 5 quarterbacks: Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Deshaun Watson, in order 1 through 5. And the Twitter poll I want to put out there today to you, based on that, is that how many elite quarterbacks do you think there are in 2020? Options are 2, 3, 4, and other, either more or less. So far, 3 and 4 are tied, 33%. So most of you think there's 3 elite quarterbacks or 4 elite quarterbacks. I say 2. My answer is 2. I think it's only Patrick Mahomes and Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson. To me, those are the only 2 quarterbacks you can put in the elite level heading to 2020. And that is definitely so far last in the clubhouse, 6.7%. So only 6% of you agree with my thought there's only 2 elite quarterbacks, Mahomes and Wilson. So I'm in the minority, but that's okay. That's okay. We will agree to disagree. But I think, at least going into this year, I'm not ready to put Lamar Jackson. To me, Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Watson are in the same category. Really, really, really talented. Do a lot of things well. But part of the tier 1 elite category spelled out was that no holes in their game. To me, I look at Deshaun Watson, I look at Lamar Jackson, they're not flawless. They're not flawless. Deshaun Watson has to improve his pure passing game just a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit. Lamar Jackson, to me, he needs to get over these playoff woes. I think if you're going to be an elite quarterback, you can't struggle in the playoffs. And we were talking about the best of the best here. Elite is not a phrase that should be taken lightly. It's not a phrase that we can just kind of throw out there willy-nilly. Oh, it's Joe Flacco elite, blah, blah, blah. I know that was mostly a joke discussion. There are people out there that put Joe Flacco in the elite category because he won the Super Bowl. He's Eli Manning elite because he won 2 Super Bowls. You can be really good. You can win a Super Bowl and not be elite. You can struggle to win and still be elite. It's purely your talent. And what you have around you obviously helps. But I see in the case of Russell Wilson, Seahawks continually win and win and win, despite having no talent around, despite really actively trying to hurt the talent around Russell Wilson. So again, if you want to vote, Ryan_Hickey the number 3, Ryan_Hickey the number 3. How many elite quarterbacks do you think there are in 2020? So before we get out of here, at 11 o'clock Eastern, we'll give you the final results. I say 2. Love to get your thoughts on how many. We'll get your results again on Twitter for sure before we get out of here, like I said. But also, I want to stick with the NFL. So I want to talk about, let's start previewing the season. Let's start looking at the aspects of the season that we can actually get into. Because I think it's fun. I think for me, especially for me, when it comes to thinking of topics for the show, I feel like too many times I can get caught in coronavirus talk, in speculation talk. But I think, it's also okay to have some fun. let's start really previewing the season like it's going to happen. Like we're going to have as close to a legitimate season as possible. So with that said, I'd love to get your thoughts. How many Super Bowl contenders are there currently right now in the NFL? Now in 2020, you could point to say that team can legitimately win a Super Bowl. How many? To me, I have 6 teams. 6 out of 32, I think, are legitimate Super Bowl contenders, can legitimately win a Super Bowl, and that's it. 2 in the AFC, 2 in the AFC, yes, like I said, 4 in the NFC. I'll start in the AFC. This one's easy. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs, do I even really need to explain why they're Super Bowl contenders? Returning 20 of 22 starters. I could just really say 2 words, Patrick Mahomes. Any team he goes to, automatically Super Bowl contender. They have a great skill set. Running backs, tight ends, wide receivers. You add Clyde Edwards-Helaire, a great multi-purpose back out of LSU in the first round. Add him to an already dynamic offense. Yeah. Spoiler alert. Not much I have to say about the Kansas City Chiefs. They are definitely Super Bowl contenders. I think I could say the same thing for the Ravens. Not much else I have to say about the Ravens. One of the best overall rosters in the NFL. Lamar Jackson should continue to evolve. So despite not having him in the league category, I still think very highly of Lamar Jackson. And I think the skill set that he has and the scheme that the Ravens run on offense, I think it's one where it's still going to be tough for defenses to figure out in 2020. I think it's going to be very tough for them to slow down Lamar Jackson, slow down the running game. They do so many different things well. So the offense will continue to be explosive, continue to improve. You had a great defensive depth in free agency with Calais Campbell, a hell of a trade. Coming now, going to be a presence on the interior. And I think they crushed the draft. I love the J.K. Dobbins pick. Just add more strength to the running back position. Patrick Queen at linebacker is going to be a great fit. So you addressed a few weaknesses. You already have the roster set before you added and addressed those weaknesses of contending for a Super Bowl. I think this year we'll finally, I know we're expecting it last year, a Ravens-Chiefs, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, AFC title game. Obviously, the Ravens didn't do their part. I think we will get a Ravens-Chiefs AFC title game this year, finally. Should be a lot of fun watching Lamar and Patrick Mahomes battle it out year after year after year. So 2 in the AFC, Chiefs and the Ravens. 4 in the NFC. 49ers, again, similar to the other 2 teams. Go to the Super Bowl last year, return a large chunk of your team, and only get better in the offseason. A great trade for Trent Williams to boost and bolster that offensive line. And even though they traded DeForest Buckner, a great interior defensive lineman, that defensive line is still loaded. Eric Armstead, great talent. Joey Bosa, think about it. Joey Bosa is only a rookie last year. Think about how far he has to go. His evolution of getting to a great player. He has the makings of being better than his brother. And his brother's got a $135 million contract extension from the Chargers. So I'm very excited to see what Nick Bosa can do in year 2. And similar to the Ravens, Kyle Shanahan's an offensive mind where they were very run-heavy and very dynamic with the running game. I think Kyle Shanahan has plenty of new wrinkles to throw in there this year to keep defenses on their toes and not have them adjust to really slow down the 49ers offense. So I think they are legit. I think they come back and reload are even stronger than they were last year. I'm excited to see the 49ers if they can get over the hump this year. But to me, they are definitely a Super Bowl contender out of the NFC. And I'll go one other team in their same division, the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, we talked about all morning, Russell Wilson, his elite status. Second best quarterback in the game. He's one of those guys that can, no matter who you put around him. I mean, honestly, you can put me at receiver. He'll still win. He's that good. He brings all the talent out of them. Tyler Lockett has developed into a nice receiver. DK Metcalf had an impressive rookie year. And I like the Greg Olsen addition. I do. Because for a while, the Seahawks struggled at the tight end position. Jimmy Graham was okay. Not great. Definitely didn't replicate the success he had down in New Orleans with Drew Brees. But now you have a reliable weapon for Russell Wilson to throw to. A 3rd down and 5, the perfect target in Greg Olsen. You saw Cam Newton relied on Greg Olsen a ton down there in Carolina. So I'm excited to see that you have basically a security blanket for Russell Wilson. Then they had Jamal Adams a few weeks ago. So you had a leader to the secondary. Not to mention, you put a great answer, a great stopper to the great tight end George Kittle in your own division. The 49ers have the best tight end in football in George Kittle. Not only do you have an answer, you have an option to try to take him away. and that is Jamal Adams. So Seahawks and 49ers, 2 of the 4 teams in the NFC, I think, are Super Bowl contenders. 2 more, both out of the NFC South. No surprise here. The Saints, this is really Drew Brees' last run. This is really it. If Drew Brees really wants to get a second Super Bowl, if the Saints want to even just reach a second Super Bowl in the Drew Brees era, this is their last shot. They added Emmanuel Sanders to pair with Michael Thomas. I like that signing. Defense, he added a boost in leadership with Malcolm Jenkins. That defense is already pretty good. And they have the roster already set. It's just really about, can they get rid of their playoff woes that happened in the last few years? I mean, think about it. Last 3 playoff exits for the Saints. You had the Minneapolis Miracle. That game was won. You miss a tackle, Stephon Diggs is running to the end zone, you lose that game. The year after that, you bounce back. You have the great blown call at home against the Rams. Right? Pass interference call wasn't called, should have been called. Would have allowed the Saints to run down the clock, kick the game-winning field goal with no time left, and win the game. Instead, no call was made, score, you allow the Rams to go down the field, score, and the Rams win in overtime. That game. And then, just this past year, at home, in the Dome, wild card weekend, against a quarterback who has routinely showed up small in the clutch, and the big moment has not come through in Kirk Cousins. You allow him to, and you allow the Vikings really to dominate the first 3 quarters. 4th quarter comeback, then you have a big completion by Kirk Cousins to win the game. 3 brutal, heartbreaking exits by the Saints. This is going to be their last shot. This is it. They want to have Drew Brees get a second ring. I like what they did. I think they have a great team around him. I think they have a real shot. The big question is going to be, can Drew Brees play at an elite level? Not for 16 games in the regular season. Can he do it for 18 games, for 19 games, for 20 games? Because so far, Drew Brees the last few years has not shown he can play at an elite level for an entire season. Will that change? I have my doubts, but with that said, still, the Saints are very formidable. Still a very tough team in the Dome, and they absolutely should be considered Super Bowl contenders. And we'll finish it off, the 6th and final team, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They went all in. I still, more than others, buy into Tom Brady. I still think he has a lot left in the tank. I still personally attribute most of his struggles in New England last year with a young receiving core and a bad offensive line. So I think now when you put Rob Gronkowski, when you put Mike Evans, when you put Chris Godwin around him, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm buying into the Buccaneers. They can legitimately contend for the Super Bowl, legitimately be a tough out for the 49ers, for the Seahawks, for the Saints. Even if they get to the Super Bowl, Ravens or Chiefs, I think they can really put up a fight and win a Super Bowl. And just think, for how bad, or I shouldn't say how bad, how much the defense struggled last year. Most of that was because you had a quarterback who was throwing interceptions left and right. He had 30 interceptions last year, and a lot of them put the defense in bad spots. So the defense should be better in points per game just because you're not going to have Tom Brady throwing 30 INTs. He won't even throw half, but let's say he has a terrible year and he throws 15 interceptions. That defense is still going to be way, way, way better than they were last year. So defense will improve. You have incredible skill set. And you have a quarterback I think is motivated, hungry, and still has talent. Still has gas left in the tank. I think that will come through for the Buccaneers and help drive them to at least be Super Bowl contenders. So when I look at the NFL, all 32 teams, I view only 6. 4 in the NFC, 49ers, Seahawks, Saints, Buccaneers. 2 in the AFC, Ravens and the Chiefs. I think one of those 6 would be host the Lombardi Trophy. That's it. To me, no other team has a shot. No other team is truly Super Bowl contenders right now as I see it. So let's get your thoughts. How many are there? Did I leave one off? Did I add too many? How many in your mind Super Bowl contenders are there in the NFL in the 2020 season? We'll get your thoughts. Worldwide Sports Network on Facebook, WWSRN_radio on Twitter. So reach out, let us know. If you're on Twitter, Ryan_Hickey number 3. Vote in the poll I put out just about 2 hours ago. How many elite quarterbacks do you think there are in 2020? So get your thoughts. We'll tell you the poll to finish off. And also when we come back, we had some big-time names in college football opt out already of the season. I'll let you know who's opting out and why it won't be a mass exodus, as some may think. It is the Morning Boys with Ryan Hickey right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It's time to wake up with the Morning Boys. on Worldwide Sports Radio Network. And here's your host, Ryan Hickey.
And we're back here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, talking a lot of football today. A lot of NFL in the air. Training camps are underway. We are rolling into August here, just a little over a month away from the NFL starting. And it's good to talk some sports. It's good to talk football, honestly. It really is. That's been a lot of fun. We're taking a lot of discussion so far. How many elite quarterbacks do you think there are in 2020? I say 2. The poll is out of my Twitter, Ryan_Hickey number 3. Ryan_Hickey and the number 3. How many elite quarterbacks do you think there are in the NFL in 2020? Talking about Aaron Rodgers, you had Matt LaFleur earlier this week say basically that he believes Aaron Rodgers will be in Green Bay for a really, really, really long time, quote unquote. Okay. And for a really, really, really long time is 2 years. Okay. I don't think that's the definition of a really, really, really long time for most people, but to each their own, I guess. And with that said, we also just started a discussion. When Aaron Rodgers leaves, I believe it's going to be in 2 years. What team would fit him best? Where would he go to be a winner, to win a Super Bowl? Because I think that is his motivation. I truly think, he could put on a brave face, talk about, how he knows what Jordan Love's going through, doesn't hate Jordan Love. That's fine. But I think once he leaves, whether he's traded, whether he's cut, I think he's going to try his best to show what a mistake the Packers made. So where could he go to get that most success, get that revenge? My guy Joe Pidell initially wrote Rodgers to Cleveland would be very interesting. I like that a lot. And he goes, he even added Buffalo as well, which I think is also another really interesting team. Buffalo, what Sean McDermott has built down there, or up there, I should say, where I am. I love that team. A great roster. They add Stephon Diggs, a real big playmaker. To be honest, the jury's still out on Josh Allen for me. I'm not a big Josh Allen fan. And to me, that's where I put my real concern about the Bills taking the next step, being an elite team, being a Super Bowl contender, being a playoff, threat. I hold my reservations because I don't trust Josh Allen, to be completely honest. He concerns me. He still has a lot of flaws in his game. And I'm still waiting for him to take that next step to really be the reason why the Bills are winning games. And that's really interesting. Joe makes a great point. I wonder if that's not the case. Josh Allen has an okay year, let's say. Not even struggles, just had an okay year. With the defense the way it is, again, now you're really starting to improve your skill positions in Buffalo. And you're really trying to take over for the Patriots. Now that Tom Brady's gone, we'll see what the future is like in New England. But you think now that he's out of the AFC East, it's up for grabs. Buffalo, if they want to be the next team to take over the division, if they want the division to go through Buffalo year in and year out, Aaron Rodgers being the quarterback, for at least in the short term, would be a great answer for that. So I like both of those options by Joe. Buffalo and Cleveland. Two fan bases that I think would welcome with open arms Aaron Rodgers to their city. Would turn both into automatic Super Bowl contenders. Because notice, I didn't say the Browns, I didn't say the Bills. When I just went through the list of Super Bowl contenders, I said 6 for 2020. No Bills, no Browns on that list. And I found Rodgers the quarterback, big difference. Big difference. So we'll see where he goes. But if you have any thoughts before we get out of here, where will Aaron Rodgers play in a few years? Let us know. Reach out. Where would be the best fit? But I do want to, before we get out of here, talk a little college football. Because this week, we're starting to see, I don't want to call it a trend, but now we're really starting to see players actually decide their future well-being, their future status, and college players are slowly starting to opt out of the 2020 season. We've seen 3 big names so far. Rashad Bateman, a receiver at Minnesota, Caleb Farley, cornerback at Virginia Tech, both first-round talents. And now the latest one. So far, the biggest name, the biggest domino to drop, is in my alma mater, Penn State, their linebacker, Micah Parsons, also is rumored, I should say. Hey, he hasn't officially said it himself. But Eric Edholm over at Yahoo does a great job with their draft coverage. So according to his sources, Micah Parsons was going to opt out of the 2020 season. So that's by far the biggest name that could opt out, that could not play. And obviously, this is all in preparation to save themselves because it's going to be a weird year trying to get ready for the NFL draft in 2021. So the question is now, especially with a big name coming out, you think maybe that makes it easier for a lot of other players. If a big name is going to opt out, okay, I'll do it too. Will this be a trend? Are we going to see more and more and more of this to where, every team, let's say, in the Power 5 is going to be without their best player? Or teams like Alabama are going to be decimated because 4 or 5, 6 players are going to opt out and not play. I'm going to say no. This is not going to be a trend. We'll see a few more players, don't get me wrong. There's not going to be some sort of trend. There's not going to be some sort of mass exodus to where every college football player with talent and skill that's draft eligible is going to leave. I don't think so. Because first of all, you got to look at the criteria. Only surefire, really, first-round picks are going to be the ones that should consider opting out. So what should we say? That's about 20 players maybe that we think are locks in the first round, no matter what. If they don't play another game, if they don't play another snap. Micah Parsons, he's a borderline top 5 pick. I understand he's a linebacker, but he is that good. And he's gotten that many great reviews already from scouts. That he is surefire going to be, if not maybe top 5, top 10. Rashad Bateman, a big, physical, talented wide receiver from Minnesota. And Caleb Farley, a great corner at Virginia Tech. All 3 are going in the first round. They didn't need a 2020 season to add more tape to cement their status. They're already in. So really, what are we talking about? About 20 players? We're talking about the Trevor Lawrences of the world, the Justin Fields of the world. To me, I think this is going to be a great year and a great example for a lot of these players that are maybe late first-round picks, early second-round picks, or even later-round picks to improve their draft stock. This is a chance for them to put on tape, to show out, and really give scouts a second thought of like, well, okay, this guy's pretty good. Maybe we should think about taking him higher. Because let's think about the uncertainty for a second here. As you know, we don't even know what a 2020 season is going to look like, if a 2020 season could be finished in college football or in the NFL, either. They're going to start. We know that for sure. We know the NFL is going to start. We know college football is going to start. We don't know what it's going to look like, if it's going to finish, how it's going to finish. But let's think about this for a second. What if the virus continues through 2020? It's still around in 2021. We don't have a vaccine, or we don't have a vaccine that works effectively just yet. And there's no guarantee right now that the scouting combine is going to happen in February. And there's no guarantee that even pro days at these schools could happen. Because if scouts aren't allowed to travel, that really hurts the scouting process in the offseason. A lot of the work done by these teams and by these organizations are done from February to April, or January to April, I should say. So if there's no even guarantee that a scouting combine could happen, that a pro day could happen, in theory, this could be the last time, if players opt out, this could be the last time that they have any sort, or there's no other way for these teams to evaluate them anymore. You could send teams tapes, you can send teams videos. It's not the same as being there in person. Timing yourself, measuring the player yourself, interviewing the player, trying to get his mental makeup. So there's no guarantee that any of that will be around in February and March and April to show the scouts that, sure, I didn't play in 2020, but look what I've been working on in the offseason. Look how in shape I am. Look how big I am. Look how fast I am. So if that's not a guarantee, it's a major risk. If you're someone not of the elite, if you're not a Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, if you're not a Micah Parsons, just sit down and basically say, there's nothing else I could do to improve my draft stock. This is what I am. And hopefully, next year you'll draft me. But two, I think players can really help their stock more than hurt. And I have a great example, and it's very recent. Last year, LSU, they had 5 players drafted in the first round last year. Obviously, they have that great year in 2019, going undefeated, win the national title. Joe Burrow lights the world on fire. The offense is unstoppable. We all know. But whether it's Joe Burrow, whether it's Caleb Von Chason, whether it's Justin Jefferson, Patrick Queen, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, all different positions, all first-round picks. All 5 of them, and you know what they have in common? Not only that they went to LSU, obviously, in first-round picks, they all have in common that they were not first-round picks before the season started. None of them were slated to go anywhere near the first round before the 2019 season started. And what happened? They played their way into it. Joe Burrow played his way from a late-round pick into the first pick of the draft. Justin Jefferson played his way from an underrated recruit to a first-round pick. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Think about this. In a league where the running back position is so marginalized, such an afterthought, such a position where it's basically plug and play. We'll take anyone from the 5th round, cheap labor, we'll plug him in, and he'll run for 1,000 yards. Chiefs spent a first-round pick on this guy. Because he is that talented, he is that good. All because in 2019 they showed out and put on tape, this is a can't-miss prospect. That's why, to me, despite some of these big names already coming out, again, all 3 players that opted out so far, Micah Parsons, Rashad Bateman, Caleb Farley, all first-round picks. I do think it makes it easier for you to opt out when you see big names opting out. Right? If Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields decide to play this year, I personally do think there's a little bit more peer pressure to say, I think it makes it harder for players to opt out. I do. Because if these talented players, if these surefire top 5 picks are playing, what makes you think you can just opt out and say, I've done enough, I'm good. My body work speaks for itself. I think there's a major chance that a lot of these players could end up like LSU last year. 5 in the first round, neither of the 5, any of the 5, were slated to be first-round picks before the season started. So that's why I don't think we'll see mass exits. I don't think that this is going to be a major number of players opting out, a lot of talent leaving college football this year. I think it's going to be very few and far between. We're going to get more players, don't get me wrong. And not all of them opting out will be for the draft. But you had already Jamar Chase, another lock of a first-round pick at LSU, said he's playing this year. So I think a lot of players are going to play. I really do. It's going to be similar to what a bowl situation is going to be like. But even still, we've seen players in bowl games. Alabama's the latest example. That still played. Jerry Jeudy, guaranteed first-round pick. Lock it up. He still played in the Citrus Bowl. Not even in New Year's 6. He still played. So I don't think it's going to be mass exodus. Micah Parsons obviously is the biggest wow of players supposed to opt out, but I think no worries if you're a college football fan. We'll still see a lot of talent this fall, and just we hope and pray that a season can start and finish in some capacity, and we do crown a champion in 2020. Fingers crossed. So before we get out of here, I do want to talk about the big discussion we had today. How many elite quarterbacks do you think there are in 2020? There's coming on the heels of The Athletic. Their great author, Mike Sando, did a poll that he does basically year after year after year, 7th year that they've done this, putting all the starting quarterbacks into tiers. And the coaches he spoke to, the evaluators he spoke to, had 5 quarterbacks in the elite category, or tier 1. I'm calling it the elite category, but they said tier 1. Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Deshaun Watson. So I asked you, what are your thoughts? You're an NFL fan. You watch these quarterbacks. How many would you say are elite in your mind? Put the options as 2, 3, 4, or other. So far as we get out of here, the leader is 4. 4 quarterbacks. Now, I did not ask to say who. So far at 41%, 4 quarterbacks is what most of the people are saying that's how many elite quarterbacks there are in 2020. I said 2. And says this throughout the show, the poll keeps on updating, and my decision doesn't change. My choice of 2 is in dead last, according to the people of Twitter. 5.9% of you agree with me. There's only 2 elite quarterbacks going to 2020. Got a nice little discussion with my guy, Jeff Jazuski. Love Jeff. Big Penn State guy. But me and him, let's say we don't really see eye to eye on almost anything. Very rare that we see eye to eye and agree on stuff. And, of course, he did not disagree. He did not agree. He thought the number was right. There are 5, but he would replace Lamar Jackson with Aaron Rodgers. Oh, I'm sorry. He would replace Aaron Rodgers with Lamar Jackson. Flip it around. Excuse me. So Aaron Rodgers coaches and evaluators have him 3rd. Lamar Jackson 7th. Jeff said, I put Lamar Jackson in tier 1, the elite category. I bumped down Rodgers to tier number 2, which is really interesting, too. Because again, this is coming off the heels of the Players Top 100. We voted for it, the players voted for it. The results were released last week. They voted Lamar Jackson the number one player in the league. Number one player in the league. Then you have scouts and coaches have Lamar Jackson the 7th overall best quarterback in tier number 2. Really interesting. Oh, I mean, that's a decently sized gap. So what the players think, what the coaches and evaluators think. I'll be honest, I happen to side more with the coaches and the players. Excuse me, the coaches and the evaluators when it comes to stuff like this. I think they are able to look at it from a more reasonable perspective and are less biased. I think part of the voting and having Patrick Mahomes 4th and the 3rd best quarterback to me shows kind of partially that bias. I think, you vote for your friends. You vote for the guys you like. Maybe you boost someone up because you know what, they're your teammate or you like someone. You got to have their back. And the coaches and the evaluators are able to look at this more from a practical mindset and aren't swayed one way or another by relationships. So that's just me. That's my thoughts. Love to get yours. And again, 41% of you think that there are 4 elite quarterbacks in the NFL. I think a very interesting discussion for sure. So appreciate everyone who participated in the poll. Appreciate everyone who tuned in today. Hopefully, again, like I said, if you're especially listening on the coast, hopefully wherever you are, you're safe and sound. Weren't banged up too badly from the tropical storm. And we hope you have a great rest of your weekend. Thursday, the weekend's coming up. We're in August. The dog days are here. A ton of sports stuff, a lot of NBA. MLB is coming up, NHL, and our first golf major of the year. Very excited. PGA Championship, Harding Park out there in San Francisco. Very, very, very excited if you're a golf fan. Major season is back. So a ton to get to. It's great to have choices of what to watch again. Let me tell you, sports fans, we deserved it. It's been a very long time, but it is nice to have sports back and nice to have a lot of sports back. That is for sure. So enjoy the weekend. Stay safe, stay sane. We'll see you on Monday right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Radio Network.